open anywhere. Okay. Yes. We are live. Let me double check. I like to double check.
I'm double checking too.
Oh, nice.
Speaking of sisterhood.
Yes. Speaking of sisterhood, this is how we roll. This is how we do things.
I see us. We look lovely, if I say so myself.
Oh, we look good. Awesome. I love it. Okay. So I'm going to pin us to featured here. Sweet. Okay. Well, yes. Welcome, everybody. Anybody who is coming on now, anybody who is watching us in replay. This was not a super publicized little meeting that we're having here. And so there may be quite a few of you who catch this on replay. And I want to tell you that there is power in the replays. So if that is you, it is all good. But if you are jumping on here, oh, hello, Valerie. Okay. If you are jumping on here, please tag a few people. Let them know that we are here. That is awesome. All right. So let me introduce our mystery guests today. Woo! Yes, that's super exciting. So I am here with two of my sisters, April Driscoll and Jamie Shermer. So thank you, ladies, for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is what sisters do for one another. I jump in a thread and I'm like, who wants to just hang out and talk about sisterhood? And they show up. So yay. Thank you.
Thank you
for showing up. So April and Jamie are both advisors in the Armory. So the Armory is our membership that has recently transitioned from a full 12-month program into a monthly membership. It's going strong. It's going well. I'm super excited about this change. One of the things it's doing is making this healthy sisterhood more accessible at only $49 a month. And by the way, through the end of the month, we're waiving the enrollment fee for everybody who joins through the end of November. So we've just got a couple of days left. I wanted to let you guys know that. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this on here, intuitivedaughtersofgod.com/Armory. We have 10 ladies who have joined so far this month, and I'm thinking we're going to have a couple more of you squeeze in. So come on and join us. All right. So hello, Valerie. Love you. I know. I just love having Val on here watching with us. She's another amazing sister. So the reason that we have gathered today is because one of the sayings that we have in the Armory is sisterhood is the new strong. Okay. And so we like to use this hashtag sisterhood is the new strong. So the reason for that, it's what we call a table flipping statement, because what it does is it's flipping a commonly held belief or understanding, not upside down, but right side up, back to God's original design. So raise your hand if you're watching. You can raise your hand at home. Have you ever struggled with female relationships or with groups of women or with groups of women in church or in an organization? Have you ever heard it said, well, women just can't get along. Women just can't work together. Oh, there's too many women in this workplace. Those types of comments, right? There's too much estrogen here, right? And so that is actually commenting on a few different things. I would say some of the most commonly held beliefs of why women can't get along is comparison, an unhealthy type of competition that can happen, sometimes gossiping or backstabbing, those types of things clicking up, right? Who has been on the outside of like the in click before?
You just said, if you weren't popular, raise your hand.
or if you were popular in high school and then you got to college and it wasn't quite the same thing. Okay.
I'm hearing personal experience undertone.
So the deal is, we have all lived life long enough to have had personal experience and have had it said over and over again in our lives that women in community, women in relationship is actually unsafe. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the question begs, is that how it has to be?
No.
No, it is not how it has to be. It is that God's original design. When he created women, when he created woman, he created women. His original design for us was not that we feel unsafe in that relationship, but that we feel incredibly safe and comforted, and as a sense of circling up around one another when we feel wounded, not being afraid that we're going to that we have to put up guards or else something's going to come at us, right? And so I want to open up this conversation. So we all agree on, at least those of us on this screen agree that healthy sisterhood is possible, correct, ladies?
Definitely.
Yes. And we have each and every one of us has had the blessing of being a part of healthy female community, even though we've had the experience of being a part of some unhealthy versions of that. Yeah. So that's what our conversation is going to be about today. So I want to open up, and I'm gonna treat this a little bit like a mini panel. Okay. And I'm going to ask some questions of April and Jamie, and we're going to jump into this conversation. So the first question I have is, what does the word sisterhood bring to mind? And this could be positive or negative. What is it that you think of when you consider the word sisterhood?
My first thought was when I heard that word was Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants movie.
Yes, I was hoping somebody would say it,
which has a positive.
It is,
because they're like really good sisters, and they got each other's back, and they support each other and their relationships and all that. So that was my first.
I love that. And one of the things I love about that is the story goes that there's this pair of pants that actually fits each and every one of them, even though they're very different body types and sizes. And the pants actually adapt and change to each of them, and they end up eventually mailing them to each other. It's such a cool story. I love it. And I love that it actually breaks maybe some of the negative stereotypes that we might associate with that word. Yeah. What about you, April?
So I think it's like, when I hear it, it's a double thought for me. If I rear view mirror, I can say that sisterhood is something in various ways I've always had like positive experiences, but then there's those few one-offs that have tainted me, right? But when I think about sisterhood in general, forward looking, and just the boundaries I put in place and how I operate in friendship, I wouldn't be able to survive without sisterhood. Having people that are not only for me, but will lift me up when I'm against myself, even when my negative language about me is so bad. Like, sisterhood is a place where I can go and I can be held up and drawn forward into really what God says about me, who I am, how I'm supposed to be operating. So it brings up, I could share on both sides of the fence.
Yeah. And I was a little bit curious with you growing up Catholic, if you also thought of like nuns in relation to a sisterhood.
I didn't know. No, because to me, that is such an elite choice of type of sisterhood.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So that's like so separate from maybe
Yeah.
someone who's selected not to go through and become a nun. Right. So that looks different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what about you? Now you got to tell us.
Well, Jamie took my answer.
Oh gosh, now you've got to get creative. That works for you.
Yeah, thanks. So I would say I actually think about I think about biological sisterhood because I grew up with a sister who was close to my age. We were 2 years apart, and there are times that there are times that we argued over things, we didn't get along or whatever, right? Like we had those times, but there was a we could count on one another. There was a consistency to that relationship, and
Yeah, I like that.
there still is, and she and I actually work very well together. And I would say we both really love and celebrate and uphold one another. And I know that's not always true in with biological siblings, but it is true in my relationship with my sister. And so I know there are sisters that you choose, and then there are ones that you're born into that family. And I understand there are some people watching who they don't have a good relationship. If they have a sister, maybe they don't have the best relationship with her. And so just like when we're looking at Father God, and maybe some of us don't have the best relationship with our dad, or maybe there's something about it that we've, equated with fatherhood, and God starts to show us that's not a representation of me and my heart as a father, right? And we start to learn that same concept applies to sisterhood as well. Whether you equate sisterhood with friendship, or whether you equate sisterhood with more of a biological friendship, or I'm sorry, biological sister relationship, God is all about restoring things and bringing them back to their original design. And so that's really what we're here to talk about. So that can be true of those biological sisterhoods as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, ladies, I would love to hear you share about a time you had a challenging experience that shaped your perception of women in community.
Yeah, I could share. I would say my first challenging experience with this is in middle school. In middle school, you want to be accepted, and you want to be. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Julie.
You want to fit in and all those things. And there was a group of popular girls who were, hanging out together, and I wanted to be a part of their group. And one of the girls in the group said, I was kind of following them around, and she's like, stop following us around. We don't want you in our group. And so that marked me for a long time in a negative way. And I was very shy at that age. And I ended up finding a really good best friend not long after that. So I did find really good sisterhood, loyal and caring and all that. But it definitely brought on that kind of spirit of comparison. Like the popular outgoing girls. And I'm not that way. There was a comparison, and I always saw myself as less than because I wasn't the outgoing popular one. And I know, I know that's not true. Yeah. And I had my own strengths even then. And I had pretty through middle school and high school, I had really loyal friends, and I didn't realize it until I've heard other stories from other women. That's not always a common thing. And I'm like, oh, wow, I really did have pretty consistent, loyal friendships. But, you have those moments where you compare yourself or,
Yeah. And that's I love how you actually had both experiences so young. And even though, the type of comparison that's unhealthy is when we're comparing our value against somebody else's value and what we're bringing.
Yep.
But there is a healthy, eye-opening comparison when you can just look at something and be like, okay, what did I actually even want to be a part of that group? Or did I end up with the true treasure here because I had these friendships, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so what a beautiful thing that you got to experience that from such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right. So I want to welcome Julie Anderson.
Hi.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, nice to be here.
Hi. So Julie is one of our current Armory members, and she's actually been in the Armory for almost exactly a year now.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So
Been
exciting. I love that. So, Julie, we are just talking about sisterhood, as you know. And the last question I was asking was about an experience that shaped your perception of women in community. And you do not have to have an answer to every one of these questions, okay? But if you have something, just go ahead and speak up.
Yeah, I do. I worked on it at a job that was with a lot of women, and it was a different atmosphere. So, and I'm very sensitive, and there's with that feeler sensitivity. And so a lot of times they would, a lot of women, so everybody had different personalities, and some were more strong and some were more passive. And I was kind of the passive one. And so I always felt kind of lost and kind of insecure in that atmosphere because everybody was leading and I was just kind of in the midst of it, just following. And it didn't feel like a sisterhood. It just felt like everybody was lost. They were just doing their own thing and trying to tell others what to do. And they were, it was uncomfortable for me. And I remember thinking, gosh, it's really hard to make friends. But I did have a good experience in there. I did meet a friend for life, my friend Dorothy. She's like 84 years old now, I think. And but we've been friends since working there. And that's been years. And so we get together, have dinners, and we talk on the phone. And so we did. There was such a blessing, and she was a beautiful woman of God. So,
oh, that's awesome! Thank you for sharing that, Julie. And I love that. I'm hearing a little bit of a theme where it's like, oh, so Janie had a negative experience, but then she had treasure that came out of that in the form of relationship. Julie had negative experience, but she had treasure that came out of that in the form of a relationship. So I'm curious with those of you watching, if you think back on a negative experience, what came out of that, and was there treasure? Can you see that you came out with what God would have you come out with, even if it was a difficult and challenging time for you? Yeah. So let me know if you can relate to that. So, hey ladies, one of us has a tiny bit of an echo. It's not terrible, but I didn't know if anybody knows if they have Facebook on in the background or anything like that, or more than one device.
No.
Okay,
I'm going to mute.
And I saw Julie and Jamie both muted at the same time. It's very, very slight, so it's probably not a big deal. Yeah. Maybe we can all mute while somebody else is talking, and we'll just minimize it that way. Okay. April, did you have anything about that one?
I did have something about that one, and it ends in treasure. Of course, God uses all things for good. I mean, come on. We didn't plan this, I swear. It's just how it works. So here's my story. So my husband and I, we've been married 21 years now. But in the beginning of our relationship, we were within that first 4 years, we ended up being separated for 2 times for a total of 18 months. We had a church that we were members, and we had a community group. And in our community group, it was a very safe, loving place for us, and really me, because more towards the end, I had kept going regularly. And it was a great place for them to just hold us and love us in this space of being separated and trying to reconcile and figure all that out. Well, one weekend or one night, we had a couple at our church that came as guests to visit. And within less than a week later, our business was in the church. And it was super easy to identify after months of being in our community group and it remaining our private business. And then to have it spread through the church, or just like random people knew that just shouldn't, because that's how gossip works. One. And I remembered thinking, boy, that was super easy to identify. And I remember just realizing how special that community group had been to honor our privacy. And it actually, I really wasn't upset because we weren't super private about it, but we certainly weren't out just blabbing our business to everybody in the other circles that we kept. Or not, so they weren't even our circles, so that's another thing about sisterhood. It is this inner circle relationship of trusted people. And so it was people that didn't have any business knowing what was going on for us. So but it didn't injure me for community groups or anything like that. It was just a good reminder of, hey, when you've got a guest that comes into your sisterhood, you might hold back on some of your information until if you trust them.
Yeah. That's,
wisdom,
yeah, exactly. So what I love about that is that you're like, it didn't ruin me for sisterhood. And in fact, you still saw that as a really safe space, a safe environment. I love that.
Yeah.
I would say I have shocking. I have a few different stories, but the one that, it's interesting. There was both pain and treasure in this as well. So, I am divorced. I'm married to the love of my life, but I'm formerly divorced. And at the time that we were, going through our separation, we had just left a group that we had been very close to. And the women of that group had separately from, it was basically a Sunday school class where it was a bunch of couples, young couples, and we got to know each other really well, and would go to each other's houses and just do a lot together. And the women separately would do like Bible studies together and things like that, and go visit one another. And I felt like I was really close to a lot of people. And we ended up, when we were separated, we stopped going to that church together. It was just, I don't know, it was just hard or whatever. And I literally, everybody except for one person just dropped off as if we didn't exist. They had I think they just had no idea what to do with it. But that one person called me, and she was a therapist, so she had like she was very empathy forward, but she didn't have to be. Like, she didn't have to call me, she didn't have to talk to me, she didn't have to empathize with me, she didn't have to stay in contact with me and check in on me, but she did. And so while I learned that not everybody that I thought I was friends with, I was actually friends with, this one person I knew really cared about me, and she was such a shining light in a really dark place that I was in. So that was really sweet. Yeah. So let's just go ahead and make this our last question, our final question. How has God used the Armory and or other communities to restore the original design of sisterhood in your life? And I'm going to add, actually, I'm going to make this a two-part question. What do you believe is the original design for sisterhood? Like, what is the core of that? So basically, what is sisterhood intended to be, and how have healthy communities helped you enter into that space in your own life? Is that too much at one time? Two questions together, Nanette.
I can start.
Hi, Jamie.
So I feel like the original design of Sisterhood is really coming alongside each other and building each other up and praying for each other and carrying, it's that whole carrying each other's burdens. And also being able to and not comparing or being in competition, like championing each other and your strengths, and just being able to say, hey, I'm so excited for what you're doing, even if it's a similar thing, you're hoping to grow in yourself. For me personally, the Armory has absolutely, like, I feel like I've felt the most championed and encouraged in the Armory. I have other friends that encourage me, but it's different because I feel like it's the prophetic atmosphere that all of us bring. It's like a superpower, because we see things in each other, and it has really helped me to see my leadership qualities. So that's been huge for me.
I love that. I love that. And that is from an advisor in the Armory. Jamie is a heart healing practitioner and grief recovery specialist. And she specializes in the Armory in advising in the area of heart healing, inner healing. And I love so much the impact that the Armory has had on you, Jamie. And you come in and you serve us, and just to know that you are receiving and that you are feeling personally championed in that space is such a blessing, and really touches my heart deeply. So thank you for sharing that. Yay. All right. Who wants to go next? Val says Jamie Shermer is a rock star. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are, Jamie. Yeah, I'd just like to share. Well, I think the original design of Sisterhood is like support and love and like a oneness with you, because you're one with God. And then God, as you're one with God, you're one with others. So it's like we're just one together, it's like a sisterhood. And I never really, like I said, experienced this type of love in a group. So, it's really special. So I mean, it's, I don't know, there's just something beautiful about it. And I just feel like what this group did for me is it strengthened me. It gave me back my voice. And I just felt life being breathed back into me, because I just felt like I was so, lost and feeling like, what am I here for, God? What do you want to do to use me? But yeah, that is exactly what I feel that the Armory does. Is it's a connection, like a circle, like you said. It's just love, a lot of love and lots of support and compassion. And you can speak and you can share how you feel, and others just rally around you. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Julie. And one of the things that I know. Oh,
sorry. I want to
go
have
ahead.
one other thing. I am always excited to come to every meeting and group. And if you knew me before, I was very scared to even speak. So to be able to even do something like this, and feel comfortable, would have never been something I would have ever did. So that's how much I've grown in this group. So it's incredible.
Yes.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, actually, that's what I was going to ask about. Is I was going to ask about because when you very first came on, I remember you were like, I don't think I can. I've never done a live before. Like you would come on and you'd be like, oh, I really just don't even want to turn my screen on.
I wanted to just hit leave. I'm too scared to talk. And if they ask me to talk, I'm out of here, but no, it was really comfortable from the very beginning. Even though I was nervous, it was just very, I felt loved. And I felt like somebody wanted to hear me. And I remember even when I shared some intimate things with you, you cried, and that meant something to me because somebody was hearing me. I felt like somebody was listening and somebody cared.
Yeah.
And that touched my heart in a way that I can't even express. So yeah, just so many beautiful things. I just love it. I love this group. And I love all of the women in this group.
Oh, and we
My
love
sisters.
you. Yes. I know. You're amazing, Julie.
Oh,
And I
thank you.
know
I love you too.
I love you. And another thing that I first of all, I want to point out how brave that you have been as well. That you have come into this space of fearlessness
Mhm.
that is it's so beautiful. I love seeing you, like, from the beginning. It was clear that this is who you are. You are somebody who shows up boldly and fearlessly, but you weren't able to do that yet. And
Mhm.
so now you are. It's just really lovely to see the full manifestation of that freedom that you've experienced.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. All of you helped me so much. So thank you.
Oh, I love it. I love you. What about you, April?
Yeah. So I, first of all, just listening to everybody else just fills my heart because I am all about sisterhood. I'm all about, I believe sisterhood is being seen, known, and understood. Because when you're seen, known, and understood, judgment's gone, comparison's gone. Like, you're just in the presence of someone who's for you. And that's what it feels like to be in the Armory. I will say, as someone who's been here with Ninette from the beginning and watching the growth of the brilliance of you as a leader over Intuitive Daughters of God and the Armory, I am blown away by this sense of community that you can create with large numbers of people. And like Julie said it best, I have watched people come into the Armory because I'm an advisor as well. So I have a different seat, the same one as Jamie, and watching these flowers bloom and become so transparent and so vulnerable. That's what sisterhood is. It's this inner circle that actually can be large. That's what's being proved with the Armory, where you just come as you are. And like Jamie, I have experienced a growth and an uptick in my leadership, in my confidence, in my belief, because the women in the Armory, even all three of you women, have spoken into my life in a very powerful way that changed the trajectory of what I was doing or what I was saying or how I was thinking. That's what sisterhood is.
Yeah.
We know the person that you can pick the phone up who's going to be gossipy, negative with you and tell you, yeah, leave your husband, don't be friends with her, and then you also know who you can call that's just going to hold you up when either things are crumbling or you've got so many great things going on in your life that you have someone you can call and say, everything's going great in this area. And they're like, yes, keep going. And that's sisterhood. That is sisterhood. And yes, I've got some of this in other places in my life, but because I don't want to negate that I do have great relationships, but I have never in my life seen anything like what's available for Intuitive Daughters to come into the Armory and find new levels and layers of who they are in their boldness and in their confidence than this place right here.
Yeah. And thank you, April. That's every single word you're saying is accurate. And it's accurate. Like, I think I said to you, April, like, where my favorite place to hang out online is? It's in the Armory.
Yeah.
It's my favorite place to go just like hang out. Like, and it's so funny because I'm like, I'll look at it sometimes and I'm like, God and I co-created this space. Like, we had team, we had help, and that was amazing.
Yes.
But I'm like, and now I just go to connect. And if I'm having a rough day, I've been known to come into the Armory and be like, okay, ladies, here's what my day's been like. Hashtag processing time for Nanette. Now, I don't dump on people. I actually do have a group that if I really need to, they can hear that side, right? But sometimes I'm like, there's been this really interesting stuff going on. And so I'll like process it. And who else has something similar happening? But even the individual friendships that come out of that space are really powerful. So, for example, right before we got on this meeting, April calls me and really quickly we get into like the real deal. Here's what's really happening, right? And I'm like, this is this really interesting emotional state I'm in. Let me process it with you, right?
Yeah.
And April's like, I can relate to that.
Thank you for saying it out loud.
And we both were talking about how when you are it's rare to have a friend that you actually want to go talk to when you're not sure what's happening,
Yeah.
like internally, right? And we've all been in those spaces where we're like, I'm not actually sure what's even going on inside of me. And so when we're in that space as intuitive daughters of God, we have a tendency to pull back. I would maybe even say as humans, we have a tendency to pull back. There may be some who are not that way, but anyway, yeah, right. We tend to hide, right? And so, but knowing that you have true friendships with women who do get you. They do know, they do understand. You can come out and be like, "All right, I'm struggling. Here's where I'm at. I don't even know what's going on." And you will find yourself empathized with, celebrated, and championed. And truly breakthrough happening because the over-encompassing or maybe even the undercurrent, depending on how you look at it, aspect of any healthy community is going to be freedom. Any healthy community will promote and usher in new levels of freedom for each and every person in that community. And so if you're wondering how to know if a community is a healthy community, do you feel more free to be yourself in that space? Because if you feel more free to be yourself, and bonus, you actually want to become more of your true self, right? Not just, oh, well, here I am with all of my stuff. Yeah, that's sometimes there's time for that, right? And there's space for that. But also you're feeling called onward and upward and in this space of hope and encouragement. Right? So that is how you know that you are in a healthy sisterhood, when you know you can be exactly where you are, but that you're not going to stay there because the women around you are celebrating every little win and they are championing who you truly are. They see you, they know you, they understand you, just like what April said. And because, we need to make it legal and talk about the Bible.
Thus saith Nanette.
The place, there are two places in Scripture that there is healthy sisterhood that's displayed. Now, I'm not saying it's the only two, but it's the two that comes to mind for me. One of them is Mary and Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that relationship and that 3 months they both spent pregnant when they weren't supposed to be together is because nobody else got them. Nobody else understood what they were going through. They needed one another. And so God graciously brought them together in that space. Okay. When you when you feel like you are out and nobody gets you, nobody understands, and even the spaces that you feel like, well, this is my community, you're like, why do I still feel like an outsider? Look for God to bring you into a space where at least one person gets you. Okay. And in the armory, we have an entire group who get you as an intuitive daughter of God. We get your process. The other part in scripture is Naomi and Ruth. Like, and we know that it's classic, right? Ruth is like, wherever you're going, I'm going. Your people are my people. Your God is my God. I'm not leaving you. And so what a beautiful example, even though that was somewhat of a mother-daughter type of relationship, there was sisterhood there too, right? There was that loyalty that I'm going with you. We're doing this life thing together. I love you. I'm yours. Right. So that was really lovely. And when you see that at the end that Ruth has married Boaz and they have this baby, the women of that town, I think they even came up with a song for Naomi. But anyway, they had a celebration, and they actually, along with Naomi, named the baby.
I love that.
Yeah. So there was this gathering of women who came together to celebrate what God had done.
And Nanette, one of the things I do love about that story too is that Naomi was in such a bad, bitter place, but her friend stuck with her. I think that's another thing too. It's like when I'm down and out, feeling at my lowest, please tell me we have the same God and that your people are my people.
Yes.
It's just like, yes, please remind me of that. So
Yeah.
I like that too, because it just shows it's not just about staying on the high road all the time. It's just like she came with her when she said, call me Mara, for I am bitter. Like she joined her in that and said, come on, we're still going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. She wasn't chased away by the like, no, I'm going to name myself bitterness. Like that's where I'm at right now. No, Ruth is like, actually, you can't chase me away.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, yes. And that is true sisterhood. Oh, I love it so, so much. Thank you all for joining me. This was such a good conversation, such an important conversation to have. All of us, want to invite you who are watching, if you are an intuitive daughter of God, if you at your heart of hearts know that you are in need of sisterhood, we want to invite you into the armory, where we have an ecosystem that is actually cultivated for intuitive daughters of God to thrive in this healthy sisterhood, in this healthy community. And right now you can do it for just $49 a month without even paying an enrollment fee. The enrollment fees are waived through the end of November. So please come and join us. If you come for 1 month and you get engaged and you don't feel like this is life-changing for you, then you can just pop out. No big deal. But if you come in, chances are you are going to wonder where this has been your whole life. Because you have these amazing women. It's not just a community. You do have lots of equipping and training and stirring up of your gifts and growing in your intuitive gifts. So it's a very multifaceted space to connect, grow, and operate. All right. Well, we love you all so much. Thank you. We're getting some really, really lovely feedback.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. Super sweet. All right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Nanette.
Tag some friends in this. We also have this recorded in YouTube. And so I will make that link available to you if there is someone that's not in IDG that you would like to invite or encourage to check this video out. All right. Love you. Bless you. Have an amazing week.
Thank you. Bye, ladies. Love you
Bye,
all.
ladies. Love you.
Love you.